Are we live? I hope so. It says we're running 5. That sounds good to me. So let's bring you up so I'm not just talking to myself. There you go, buddy. How are you?
Doing wonderful. How are you, Michael?
I'm good now. I get to see you. We get to spend some time. We're going to do, what does it say here? Michael and Hans light chat. Have we ever done a light chat? I think we have. This will
We've
be the
done
first.
variations of it, but it's always fun edutainment
Yeah.
as well.
Yes. I loved your show. Maybe promote the show you just had today and the guest, if you don't
Thank
mind.
you. Yeah, I had a wonderful discussion with Glenn Brule. He is a thought leader in the project and product delivery space. And we were talking about leadership in the ranks. Why is it so hard for individuals, the rank and file, to step into to assume a leadership role, whether it's with their team on their project, how we can empower them, and how we can avoid some of the traps that make it hard. He's a brilliant guy, just a great conversation. So, if you're interested in that, you're welcome to watch the recording here on HAPS or any of the other broadcast locations, and hope you enjoy it. Let me know, and we're happy to do more shows like that.
What I liked about it was he was very honest, and there was a very raw human quality about him, saying things like, sometimes you have to test management and you
Yes.
have to be the guy that comes up with a good idea, but you better have everything fact checked.
Yes.
Don't just assume that your wonderful idea is a great idea. Maybe first check and then present. So, hi, Dee Dee. How are you today? It's refreshing to see a guest that is so comfortable within themselves, but also very honest. I didn't feel like he was doing a role. And a lot of
Right.
business stuff is either crazy, playful banner, which I've been seeing now, even on LinkedIn. The other day, I was on a show just in the cheap seats doing questions, and I did, "What are you currently grateful for?" And they chewed on that for 10 minutes. And they went, "That was such an incredible start. Thank you." Because it made them reflect about what we've been through in the last year and
Right.
how much we have grown. And they talked about the hard reset. And I'm really curious, now that you've been in this 15 months, how do you feel that you've maybe changed?
So personally, it's hard to separate out the pandemic aspects versus, if anything had been normal, would I have gone through the same year? So for me, there were definitely some, I'll say, growth moments, some frustrations, areas that I needed to work through. But I honestly don't think they're pandemic related. I think it was more, there's just cycles where you either grow together or you grow
Yeah.
apart, and you've got to decide, are you willing to put in the effort and work to make things work? And I think that's been kind of a rocky road for me the last year, not in a bad way, just something that took a lot of effort and wasn't expected. But I honestly can't blame COVID for as the problem or the instigator or making it worse.
I feel bad for you because being a natural performer, which you are, and I think of people like Amber Mack,
Yep.
um, not being able to go on stage and present, which is another, form of creativity, but it also can be a way to have a shot of adrenaline. Like that in itself, presenting can be
Right.
addictive, right? It also can be probably terrifying. Um,
Yeah. It's hard. I've still been doing virtual conferences and presentations, but being at an event and getting to see people and feed off the energy and look around and see the difference you're making,
mhm.
it's so much harder to connect online. And even when people did have their cameras on and I could watch, there wasn't any difference between that and the work meetings and everything else. It's still me staring at that one little camera dot, trying to make virtual eye contact. And it really is a different experience. I think that's been a far more of a drain on me than I thought. I have been fighting Zoom fatigue, camera and screen fatigue that's been getting pretty bad lately. So I'm trying to break away from phone and screen time to help out that.
Well,
How about you?
we should talk about that
Okay.
because this is a 2D experience. If you go
Yes.
outside, it's a 3D experience. If you're a spiritual person like me, you have moments of 4, right? Where you feel like you're connected to something higher. We're going to put our toe in the woo pond just for a second. But what I did notice, and I want to address this, and I was hoping you could have been part of this panel, and a couple of the guests that were in that show, I want them to be on your show. And I've already talked to a couple of the people, and I know the one guest in you would be perfect. You seem wired similar. And he was very logic based, and he talked about something that is across the board disturbing but exciting. And I'll explain what it is that now that we're from home, there are so many companies that have said things like, you don't ever need to come back. We've decided that you can work from home. But then you've had other companies that have given marching orders to come back. And many people are uncomfortable with that and have said, no, thank you. I'll find other employment. Do you think that's going to be a common?
Yeah. I'm absolutely seeing it. And I think, I've been a big proponent of flexible working for a long time. And there is a time and a place to be in the office and working together, and it is more productive. And then there's a time where it really makes more sense to be alone and focused. You've just got to plan your work, and it takes a different type of management. I think that I'm just going to say, in my opinion, the bad companies, the ones who are really
My
focused.
wife is getting snacks for anybody who wanted to know.
That is the closet of goodness.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because you're the one who helped us develop this. This is we call it Bab's Convenience, where we have all of our extra canned goods, our rices, soups, pastas, you name it, cleaning supplies, matches, lighters, all the things you told me in the list I should get. So, yeah, sorry
I
about that
love it.
segue. Shiny
Yeah.
ball. I'll be all right.
Well,
Okay, continue with what you were saying.
hey, Fraser, good to see you. Uh, I the the companies that have, I would say, unhealthy culture and unhealthy management
Yes.
are rebounding harder, and you can just see it in the people I'm talking to. They're broken. Like, after surviving everything that they went through to
Yeah.
completely change the way they work, and now they're back in the office and feeling like they just don't matter. Sadly, what's going to happen is the best people will leave. The people that don't have as much job portability or marketability are going to stay, and it's going to make it a lot harder on them because a lot of the thought leaders are going to go. And I was expecting a little bit of that. I was really glad to see so many companies embracing alternate work styles, flexible office, hybrid work styles. I did not expect some of the companies that are very office and command and control to almost like drop the gate and raise the drawbridge and put fresh alligators in the moat to keep their employees in the office. I wasn't expecting it to be that as harsh as I've seen it in some of the organizations I've talked to.
Well, the other part, which is a byproduct of what we're talking about, is the companies that maybe will pay a little less, but give you more freedoms and show you a little more respect. You might be more open to working for them. The other thing that we haven't discussed too is someone with your skill sets, right, is now like, what is your role? Like, are you going to be now touring all over the world, but also expected to be doing the duties you were doing before. And this is what a lot of people were saying is they're dying to get to the conferences. They don't want to ever complain about getting on a flight or being in a cheap hotel. They really want to get out there and get on the road again. They miss it so much, the interaction. And this is incredibly unhealthy to be home all the time. So I think for everybody, it's different.
Yep.
For me, I'm ecstatic at the idea of going back and driving the elevator and seeing everybody, but I know it's not going to be the same. There'll be less people.
True.
And for me, in my life, it's not going to affect it that great. But I think about people like yourself and Amber Mack and those who are people who deliver all the time. I don't know how you're going to do it. I don't know how you're going to balance the old life and the new life. And it's going to be a hell of an adjustment for someone who has not been in front of a huge crowd in a year and a half and go up there and go, hey, I'm the same guy.
Yeah, I'm actually not as worried about that. So oddly enough, I've been working 100% remote for over 4 years. So not a lot didn't change other than with everyone else being remote too, it actually made my life easier because the constraints I had not being with my team or in the office went away as we moved to virtual collaboration.
Yeah.
I think is at the beginning of yeah, it's the beginning of September. I think it's September 8th through 11th. I'll be in Orlando at one of Amy's first conferences, and
Yeah.
I have the honor of keynoting and also doing a workshop on building your personal brand and professional brand. Really looking forward to it. I'm not that worried about being back up on stage. I think it'll pick up well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that'll be as much of a problem, but there are definitely the people who were the road warriors are really doing a lot of those events. And you're absolutely right that part of their life was very significant, and they can't wait to get out there again. So I'll be doing all of Amy's events this fall. If there's
Yeah.
other ones that pop up, we'll do that. And pending US Canada border will depend on if I can make the Toronto and Vancouver events, but I'm hoping to do those. So we'll see what happens. I'm kind of taking it a little flexible and at the moment, and will fit in whatever I can.
There's two other things I want to address, and it's partly because I've been watching so many business videos lately that we're seeing a whole new way of viewing working. And what I mean by that is the days of commuting and going in and spending an hour to an hour and a half to get into work. The average person now is finding they enjoy that 3 hours with their family, or the 3 hours they're more productive at home, and they're less stressed, and they have better balance and better life balance. But here's the other thing they didn't anticipate: people with special skills like yourself, they now can be employed by anyone in the whole world as long as they have a good internet connection and they have a great camera and a good setup and great audio. They were even talking about that, the importance of great audio, great visual, that put the money into your brand because it'll equate to you making more money in the future. And more
Right.
businesses are now investing large sums of money to be internet ready, because the days of just sending emails out are done. This is your customer right here. They get
Yep.
to know you. They feel like they know you. They have a human connection with you. Um, it's really changed. And I'd love for you to kind of address that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we saw a bit of this transition when we looked at a globally connected economy and distributed workforces, distributed locations. But I don't know that it really became real until we kind of we took the training wheels off, and everyone had to be virtual. Everyone had to work together. I've seen some great success stories out of it. People doing a better job of sharing information, working from common locations, having to put in a more concerted effort to communicate and make
Hmm.
sure they're being understood. It's really helped clarify and help teams really reach new levels of productivity. The flip side is it's also exposing a lot of the bad behaviors and poor communications, because now the cost of those is magnified, and some teams are having to work harder to overcome some of those gaps. But with everything, it'll settle out and people will find teams that reflect how they like to work.
I have noticed more and more on LinkedIn. There are the structure of what we were doing in the infancy of HAPS, of where they have this playful banner, they're talking, they're discussing life, personal things. I've seen several broadcasts last week from, substantial contributors on LinkedIn. So it's changing. It's not 100% structure anymore. And if anything, I've seen where there's a mixture of both now.
Yep. Well, and there's always been some professionals like the Richard Bransons of the world,
Yeah.
who have been very transparent and very open and had just a great dynamic with his employees, with his customers, with his audience, and really
Yeah.
respect that. And I think you're seeing people realize that it's okay to be human too. You don't have to be a cardboard cutout of what a CEO is supposed to look like. You can actually be human and have real conversations. That's what I like about what you've done in a lot of the shows, and what I'm trying to do is to bring topics that people are talking about and focus in on what's important. Bring an educational but also an entertaining aspect to these discussions. So making it more conversational, making it more friendly, and kind of coming up with that banter that can help drive the conversation home. So it's good to see that that comfort level is going and that it's still staying professional.
Were you answering a question here in the comments? Or
No,
were, or were you
I was filling in the
filling
gap.
the gap while I took off? What happened was the door swung open, and this is such a COVID thing, and the TV was blaring. So I had to make sure that we couldn't hear the TV. So I closed both doors. Um, the microphones are good that way because they'll block out the sound. But
Right.
I found that it was distracting me. And one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of the calls that I've done is you'll sometimes have people fighting in the background, kids running around. The dog is suddenly on the person's lap. Um, really bad bandwidth. They're coming in and out. Pixelating screen. You name it, we get it, right? So I've learned through HAPS that it's okay when it's not perfect. Like I think it's been a
Absolutely.
great life lesson for me to just be, very agile and work with what you've got. How many times did you have a broadcast where it just went sideways, right? The guest was gone. You're there by yourself. You've started it. You
Every
hope,
time almost.
yeah, except for today. Today was perfect, right? So I think with many companies now, what they need to do is they need to invest the money to make sure they have the bandwidth,
Yeah.
they have the right equipment. Even if it's like you and I, our setups are not insanely expensive, especially mine. Mine's fairly cheap between the fine microphone I have here, which is under $100, and the Nexico camera. It's excellent. It's
Yep.
excellent. But when they come on and they've have their little headset that costs $10, right? And their bandwidth is horrible, and the camera is from their laptop that's 8 to 10 years old. No, no, the days of doing that are done.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're right. You don't have to spend a lot of money, and the frustration of having people that are on their laptop speaker and mic, so that when other people are picking it up, if their system isn't running top, it creates that endless echo loop. And it's like, I would rather have you plug in your $10 headset than trying to work off your laptop's mic, for the most part. And then just close everything else in the background. Some of our drive syncs like OneDrive and Google Drive Sync and Dropbox, they eat up a lot of system resources monitoring and looking for changes. And your bandwidth may be excellent, but if your computer's lagging, you're going to get choppy audio. And it's subconscious how better understood and heard and believed
Yes.
you'll be if people can see you and clearly hear you. When you start breaking up, they are going to be distracted and you're not going to be as convincing.
Do you agree with me though that because you get one chance at a first impression with a customer, and if you're going to the point of being on LinkedIn, you need to have a half decent setup and have the right bandwidth. If not, then have it at an office where that is all set up.
Yeah. And I understand people have constraints and you work with what you need to. There's things we can do. There's ways you can make it work. It takes a little bit of effort. Like when I first started this, I didn't have the, any of the LED lighting, trying to get, a good background, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I had a little $8 LED Walmart light that I wrapped with a few pieces of tissue just to create a diffuser, and I stuck it right next to the camera, and it worked.
6:54 p.m. alarm stopped on Michael's Echo.
Thank you. So have you ever had where Alexa just randomly will pick up on your speech and talk to you, or any guy? Like the other night, every other sentence I had, they started, well, I always think of it's as some life source, going so crazy. So the other night, it was somebody's name that repeatedly kept going on.
I have that happen a lot when we're watching TV or something, or there's a conversation in the room. It'll pop up and we'll get these just crazy random answers. It's like, how did you even think that we talked to you or asked that question? I do have a little dot that sits in my office, and unfortunately, it isn't until like someone's goes off that I remember that I didn't mute mine, and now I'm paranoid that it's going to chime in at any point here. But oddly enough, my office one hasn't done that yet, knock on wood. I don't know why, but somehow it hasn't happened and embarrassed me yet.
Alexa, what does the name Hans mean?
In the Netherlands, the name Hans is a variant of John. In Hebrew and in Germany, the name Hans means gift from God. In Scandinavia, the name Hans means God is gracious.
So I need to change my name to something a little more appropriate then.
I think God of gracious is better.
I like that. That's kind of cool. I hadn't heard those before. I'm going to have to play that for the wife later.
Alexa, cancel all alarms. Alexa, what does the name Michael mean?
Biblically, the name Michael means like God. In Hebrew, the name Michael means who is like God.
Of course, see? Right? No wonder we get along. We're both godly beings. For sure. You just ask us, not since Moses came down the mountain have there been such men. And it's hard to be humble.
I'll go with the stranger in a strange land, that thou art God explanation, and I'll buy into. I'm with you on that part.
James says she's always listening. Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about this the other day. I know this is a little bit off topic, but do you think in the future, because we all need great cameras, we need great microphones, a company like Amazon will give you something that's worth $200 for $50 so they can listen to you?
So yes, they've already proven that, because the Echo, the Google Home, the Apple devices, all of those, and then I just triggered mine. There it happened.
Yeah.
Those are all far more expensive than we're paying for them. And so from that aspect, that is happening, just like cell phones are largely subsidized. It doesn't seem as much, but we're really probably paying half the cost of what a cell phone takes to make because there's other ways they're monetizing it. In terms of cameras and computers and that piece, it's possible. Remember when Xbox first came out, and it's got the 3D camera modeling, so it can actually read your movement.
Yes.
And then they found out that Microsoft was actually monitoring what you were watching on TV and using the cameras to record facial expression and try and translate that into understanding what your feeling and reaction was. So I think, we're going to see a lot more invasions of privacy to that level, where not necessarily a person is seeing the video, but they're reading our tone, they're reading our voices, they're reading our reaction to TV shows, and using that to drive marketing or drive experience. Hopefully not for evil purposes, but it could happen.
This is hands down the deepest one we've ever done, and I think you've got me on a good day. But there is an addiction component to cell phones, to Alexa, to social media, and I always call you the human Google. Like if I need to know something, I just text my good friend Hans, and if I feel I don't like what Alexa said to me, I will then call you. But I think it's become an extension, and it worries me that we've lost the creativity part, and the children now are so connected to the devices. I think there will be a kind of a fallback with this. Do you think there's some truth in this? Like the addiction element of it is scary.
We've always had a change in how we respond to technology. And I think what we're seeing is we have tools available and a generation that is learning how to use them very efficiently. So I would say, let's take it back a few generations. Could we grow enough crops to survive? Do we know how to build our own house? Do we know bushcraft? If we really work at it, or we had, that sort of upbringing, maybe, but I don't need it. Yes, I know how to butcher animals safely, but I have a butcher in a grocery store. I don't really need that. So as long as the technology is there, I think it actually is freeing time for more creativity. So if you think about what we're using these automation devices for, I don't have to read as much. I don't have to memorize. I don't have to necessarily learn what something is. I just need to learn how to find it quickly. And so there's a lot of things that, my old trips to the library might have taken just a ton of time before. And now like you did, I can ask Echo and get an immediate answer. But I need to know how to use these tools effectively and not become helpless with them.
You know what? I want to, Alexa, are cell phones addictive?
Here's something I found on the web. According to itstillworks.com, cell phone addiction is the inability to be away from your cell phone.
I like how Captain Rehab says, the only addictions he's worried about is Canada's worst drivers and Krispy Kreme donuts. I'm with you there. I would also add to the list Chick-fil-A biscuits. Those are awesome. There's a lot of, I would say, helpful addictions. I was sad that the Krispy Kreme next to our house or near our house did not survive the pandemic. So the Dunkin' Donuts did fine because their coffee's better, but the Krispy Kreme crashed.
Yeah, it didn't make it, eh? Hans, Yeah, I'm not going to go there. Oh, Helga, how are you? Hans is being
Great
weird.
to see you, Helga.
The comments we get, folks, anybody who is at Facebook and we look stunned, it's because we're reading insane comments. So if we look like a deer in the headlights, we are trying to keep our composure while they're trying to poke us, and they know we're trying to be serious. So, and they're all friends. They're like friends and family to us. They all know you. Everybody's missing you. This one lady, do you know her, Leslie Hughes?
Yes, very well. We are doing the workshop together in Orlando.
That's what I thought.
I've had Leslie on my show a couple times. She is actually a brilliant LinkedIn specialist. So she actually helps people and companies build their brand and social connection primarily through LinkedIn, definitely on the professional side. And so if you need help in that area, she teaches part-time as well. Check Leslie out. She is quite a thought leader. And she actually is running a weekly interview series herself with some just amazing people. So definitely check out her broadcasts if you're interested in personal branding, marketing, and thought leaders.
Perfect. Okay. Can we switch gears slightly? We've already covered a few things light.
Certainly.
Okay. So the next one I want to talk about, if it's okay with you, is we'll do some light COVID updates. We haven't done that. We usually do a broadcast on that. But I think most of the world now is feeling a sense of hope. Like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Is this a falsehood, or do you feel that there is some truth in this?
We're on the right path. If you were following some of the experts at the beginning, they basically said events like this typically should burn out in about 2 years. And we didn't want to hear it that this could still be around for 2 years, but that's what we're seeing. So in the countries that are able to produce their own vaccines, they are going to be ahead of the curve, ahead of the recovery. Countries that are reliant on others, unfortunately, like India and others, they're going to have to receive whatever we can produce for them or whatever manufacturing they can spin up. So their recovery is going to be harder and longer. This is never going to go away. This types of virus have always been with us, and we've been able to.
Is this like fighting the flu? And here's the other thing I noticed, and I wanted to ask you this, just like even personally, not it here. I was wondering why the places that were hit the hardest, that had the greatest casualties, now seem to be COVID free, and why would that be? Because right now in Italy, you can go to the restaurants, you can go to the theater. New York seems wide open to me from what I've seen. I've seen concerts. I've seen, hundreds to thousands of people at venues. Is this unsafe? Is it too soon? Curious to know your opinion. And I value your opinion.
Yeah. What you're seeing is herd immunity. And when you're talking about a communicable disease, a disease that spreads person to person, the more people you slam into a small area, the more you confine people together, the better it's going to spread, and the more people that will get infected. Then there's really two factors. How fast does it spread? How sick do you get? And that really controls what the experience is going to be like. So in Europe, people are packed in like sardines. We saw this in California. We saw this not in Toronto as much, but in spots in Toronto where you'd get someone who's infected and then a whole bunch of people would quickly get infected in that small area. So a lot of people were exposed, recovered, and have developed some level of natural immunity. Combine that with the people getting the vaccine who are adding to that number, it means it's harder for the virus to spread. The hardest hit areas were areas where it spread faster than healthcare could keep up, or they had inadequate healthcare. That's India's problem right now. If you could magically pop up hospitals in every major city to treat people, their death rate and severe illness rate could go down dramatically. There's just not enough capacity. But in those areas that
need Too much
Yep.
need, too little solution.
Yep.
I want to do something light just for a sec, and it's kind of on
Yeah.
the same topic. You know who the Foo Fighters are?
Yes.
Okay. So they're going to have it where you can only go to the concert if you've had both vaccines.
Yes.
Is that a trend that we're going to see in the future? And I'm going somewhere with this. Is it going to be where you can't get on a flight? You can't get a passport? You can't be employed? You can't go to church? You can't go to the hospital? You can't fart in the wind? I like the last one the best.
Yes. I don't know how we'll ever regulate farting in the wind, but I would say we would all be happier if there were fewer people farting. I just don't
Yes,
know that
I
that's
agree.
controllable,
Yes.
self included.
What do you think of Helga's statement here? Is this?
Yep. That the numbers are getting much lower in Holland and people are going outdoors. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I think there were enough vaccines and enough people infected that when people lost their resistance and just
Yes.
gave up and started going out, at least we had hit below an R1, meaning that the virus was slowly burning out. For every one person infected, were they getting another person sick or less means it's not increasing. And a lot of the places in the States, they've just given up. Like, I actually, after watching the numbers and everything, I'm no longer wearing a mask.
Did you see this comment here from our friend Luke? You can't cross the border without measles vaccine now, Michael. Have you heard of that? Is that true?
So, depending on the countries, there are immunization requirements.
Wow.
The more totalitarian the state, the more likely you're going to see something like a passport vaccine. I believe, is it New Brunswick in Canada that has established a vaccine card so that if you travel, you can get back in without having to quarantine if you have been vaccinated and apply for the card. In the States, a lot of states have actually made those illegal, saying you can't require it. But I know that we'll have to do proof of vaccine to get on a cruise ship, which I don't hate that idea.
I think it's a great idea. I really do. I think anything to lessen the risk. There's one thing I want to address. There's a man that looks very similar to you, and he did a couple broadcasts. He was ranting about people not wearing masks. Now, I don't know if he was as intelligent or as good looking as you, but he had the same first name and the same last name. I was just wondering, are you related to that individual, or are you like Chris Angel and you have a identical twin?
If my personality has fragmented or my physical being is fragmented, I'm currently unaware of it.
Okay. Can you address why you were slightly annoyed to the point of calling it a rant with the mask issue? Why that bothered you, and why? And do you still feel that way some 2 weeks later?
So absolutely. And let me focus in for people that miss that. I don't care if you wear a mask. I don't really care if you're not wearing a mask. You know, depending on the risk, depending on your risk and your preference, that's fine. I can understand people getting upset with government mandates and government interference. Setting that aside, I have no tolerance or no love for the people who are basically I'm trying to remember what I called it, the anti-maskers. The ones who are actively getting mad, yelling at, or even physically attacking people who are deciding to continue to wear a mask a little bit longer.
Right.
It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt anyone else. There is no need to attack people. It's like, can you imagine being at a stoplight and someone coming up and banging into your window and yelling at you for wearing a seatbelt?
Yeah.
Just let it go. It doesn't hurt you. Just let it go, people, please.
Okay. Should we have a little breathing exercise and maybe do a couple of, light chanting exercises too? But
I'm actually not that worked up about it. It's just a general frustration in life is people spend too much time trying to meddle in other people's lives and tell them how to live. Just fix yourself first. let the
Yeah.
rest go. If it's not affecting you directly, just let it go. You'll find you'll be much happier. And if
How
you don't want to be
how about the
happy,
flat
stay away.
earthers? How about the earthers? You know, those ones that you invite over for the barbecue, you know, and they just they keep, you know, poking you in the ribs and going, "Come on. It's right in front of you. We're going to
Yep.
fall off the edge." You
And
know?
as Luke said, rainbow crosswalks aren't going to make you gay. I have participated in
Mhm.
for a company that I was with in many gay pride parades. At
Yes.
no point did I convert. I'm not
No.
gay now. It
No.
didn't happen. It was completely safe. I wasn't even wearing a mask or
Was
gloves.
there some slight tingling during the process at all in any certain areas of your body?
There was a joy in my heart to see so many people
Okay.
happy at being able to be who they were
Yes.
without repercussions for just a day. And
Love is
I
love. Love is love.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but you're always going to have those that are within, I would say, the dogma of religion that believe that it is wrong, right? And
yes,
I have friends with who I really respect and I love them, but they have no zero tolerance to it, and they will, you know, viciously attack me
right.
because I will not budge. You know, and they have ridiculous arguments like, well, if everyone was gay, there would be no births, there would be no children, and the world would end. I would go, oh, really? Is that how that would work? Like ridiculous stuff like that. Like, and it's like what he just said, which is funny. You know, you are not going to convert by going in a parade.
Right. Well, and there's a comedian. I can't take credit, and I apologize for not remembering the comedian. He said, if all you breeders are so upset with your children turning out to be gay, stop making gay children because we're certainly not making any.
Oh my God! Wow, wow. Okay, we'll deviate from there.
Yeah,
But we,
we'll shift off the Rainbow Bridge for a minute and go
yeah,
back to Norse
yeah,
mythology and Heimdall.
yeah. Woo, yum yum. Um, can we talk about rising food costs and rising building costs? Like, if you want to build
Yep.
a house right now, it is off the Richter scale.
The cost of wood is insane. I think I've seen it 5 times the normal price.
Why is that?
It's so the short answer is it's just logistics. There
Hmm.
are because people were sick or out of work and the demand was down for a while, we weren't pulling as much wood from the forest. The pulp mills are not running at capacity, and
Right,
trying to move wood across the US Canadian border just isn't happening with the border shut down. So
right.
there is a supply problem. Then you combined it with demand. A lot of people have not been traveling. So what have they done? They're improving their homes, they're buying new cars. So anything around home improvement or cars are just outrageously expensive. Like cars are getting retail price, sticker price right now because there's so few available.
Yeah.
And it'll go down quickly, but right now if you can avoid buying wooden cars, it's worth waiting.
Well, the other thing too that we haven't discussed is there is a shortage of chips for computers.
Yes.
There is gouging in pricing of things like video cameras,
Yes.
microphones. If you were to buy them pre-pandemic, there's certain, you know, low-end cameras that were used to be $34.99 on sale with Amazon. Now,
Yep.
$79.99. So, and they know that they'll pay because they need it. It's become a
Right.
necessity to have it.
Well, that's where some of the car shortages has come in. It's not that they can't roll the cars off the assembly lines. They can't
Right.
get the chips and the processors overseas because a lot of those factories are shut down, or there's right now a big shortage in raw materials. The people who are pulling the raw materials and processing them and getting to the factories,
Yeah.
to be doom and gloom and then you can bring us back up to the light and happy.
Yeah.
The reason everyone reacted so strongly when COVID started and
Mhm.
talked about complete shutdown and shutting down the economy, even though it was going to have a horrible impact and a disproportionate impact on the poor, was if we had 20% of the world's population get sick at the same time,
Mhm.
it could disrupt the transportation and logistics enough that a vast portion could starve or suffer simply by not being able to get products to the people. We saw this with
Yes.
toilet paper. We're seeing that a little bit with wood and chips. So we're
Yeah.
seeing scratches of it. That's what the initial fear was. If this had really taken off like wildfire.
But it's just fear. Here's the thing, okay? In Canada, they were charging insane rates for hand sanitizer. There are
Yes.
stores now brimming with it and giving it to you if you purchase over $10 of anything to get rid of it. And that
Yep.
stuff goes bad. I've seen it on shelves go yellow, and it's weird. I didn't think it could go bad, but it goes funky. And
It's
I've
the
no
aloe in it.
Is it? Is that what it
Yeah.
is? The other thing that I've noticed recently is people are stocking up on not toilet paper in the States, potato chips. What if there's a shortage of potato chips? What would happen? Like what are you going to do if they don't have your 44 or 88 cent pop?
Yeah, I don't even have my bottle with me. I drained it after the last show, and I haven't gone up to grab another.
Do you want
You
to
know,
go get a drink and I can talk to them for a second? You all right? You don't have okay.
yeah, I'm
You're
good.
good.
I'm good, especially with the timing. I'll grab dinner after this.
Yes.
And honestly, you mentioned it. You've got the Pantry of Happiness, your personal Quickie Mart.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. Figure
You
out the
could take
things
that several ways, by the way, the way you just said there. But go ahead.
in a positive way of being able to shop within your own store
Yeah.
without having to go out. Think about the things that you use, you like, and slowly add just a little bit of extra of the things you use the most often. And that's how you build up a little bit of a supply so that if there is a disruption, ideally, first, can I survive 3 days without having to get anything? If you can build it up to 3 weeks, you're probably pretty good. And if you want to be rock solid and a rock star prepper, build that out to could you survive on your own for 3 months? I'm not necessarily saying heat and power and those things. Those can be expensive, but do you have enough food and water to get by a couple weeks until you can replenish? That will take away so much stress.
We had so much stuff, Hans, that now my daughter comes over to Bab's Convenience. She never buys toilet paper anymore. She never buys pasta sauce anymore. She never buys rice anymore. She just comes in and goes, "Oh, I need cleaner. Oh, look, we've got cream rinse here. Oh, oh, yeah, oh, thank you.
You need to start charging more. The problem is she's getting it at cut rate prices.
You know what? We love that we're in a position to help her. And it's funny because it makes me feel connected to my grandfather on my mother's side. He was one of the first preppers. And this was, I would say, probably about 1980. And we'd go to his basement and he had thousands of canned goods and thousands of bags of this and that. And he would come down, he'd give you a bag and he would give you stuff. And he also worked for Dentine. So you would get gum and you would get whatever they made. There was always that kind of stuff too. But I know there was times when my parents didn't have a lot of money. And it meant we had a little extra. And I think it was awesome for him to be in a position to help us. So for me to be in the same position to do that some years later, it feels like full circle. I love it.
Yeah, I took a little bit, I've taken a little bit of, I've taken a lot of grief over the years for doing that so we were in a position to help others.
Yes.
And it's like, we haven't even fully taken care of ourselves yet. You're buying extra stuff in case other people need. So I've tried to moderate it, but with things that are important, it's worth it to me. And an example would be one of my very good friends, unfortunately, right as the pandemic started, realized that the reason he was sick was stage 4 cancer. And he was going to have to undergo a very radical chemotherapy routine. Problem is, COVID hits.
Yes.
He can't buy a mask. Like, he can't, not even an N95, he can't buy any mask, and he can't get into a hospital for treatment without one.
Oh boy.
So I was able to pull up my bin, and
Yeah.
fortunately I had some left over from SARS.
Yes.
Because I have family in Hong Kong, and so we went through this whole thing with SARS, and we're a little better
How
prepared
many
because of
years
that.
ago was that? Was that
SARS,
11? 11 years?
no, it was more than that. It was
2006?
2003.
Oh, really?
Yep, it was the year we bought our current house because my wife's grandmother actually came over during SARS and stayed with us
Okay.
stayed with her mom for 6
What was
months.
the duration of that? Because I think it was still around in 2005-06.
Yes. So the
Okay.
big pandemic part lasted about a year. 9 months was really the outbreak, and then it panned out over that several years where they haven't. It's still around. You can still find the SARS virus being passed,
So
but
is the flu.
it's going to be like the flu. Yep.
Yeah, and the mumps.
Yep. But the good
And
thing was I was able to go and pull out, and I mailed him enough N95 masks to get him through his first 2 months of chemo, reusing the mask carefully, told him how to do that, and said, if you need more, I'll dig in deeper to my stock. But
Yeah.
I had them, and I was able to share because I could get by without them or with what I already had.
I would like to keep this to an hour.
Yep.
So what I want to discuss is one of the maddening things for me is once COVID hit and I started educating myself on the cycles of pandemics, and they were saying in 2010 repeatedly, it's coming. We just don't know when, because if you study it, there is always a spike within 10 to 20 years. It's a guarantee. It's coming. It's not, we can't ward it off with positive thoughts. We were so prepared. And I think part of the reason we did so well in Canada this time was we were at least somewhat prepared. But the problem here is, like India and a lot of other places, we relied on the generosity of other countries to supply us with vaccines, and we do not manufacture them where you did. And in very quick order, you had 50 million people vaccinated, which seemed to be in a heartbeat.
Yep.
We have 60% supposedly vaccinated, but we only have a population of over 30 million.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, and we saw this even at a basic level with the hospitals, where to save money, they were not stocking up on as much PPE. Normally, they kept between 3 and 6 months of PPE in their warehouse just for this. Okay. And they said, you know what?
So what is PPE for those who don't know?
Personal protective equipment, masks, gloves, goggles, whatever you need. Darth Vader helmets for the children's ward. Fun stuff. But what they did was they stopped stocking because it was so easy to order and reorder. And that's why a lot of them ran out. It's because they chose administrators chose not to keep stocking. We may not want to hear it. This is not the last pandemic. We barely escaped an Ebola outbreak, which would have been devastating. Ebola is nasty. MERS and SARS are still around. Swine flu still kills hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes.
It could be a coronavirus. It could be something else. Yes. We will continue to have global pandemics, and with transportation and an increased population, they will become more severe and more frequent, only offset by our ability to contain them first, identify them, and then through contract tracing or immunizations, eliminate the spread. Now, could we go 1,000 years without a pandemic?
No.
It could be. There's no way of knowing. Could we have another one in 2 years or 3 years? It could be. We could have a super volcano or an asteroid. Like, all sorts of nasty things could happen. You need to decide what is it that you want to be prepared for? What is the risk? And, just focus on the day to day,
Hey,
not
Stephen.
on what the threat is.
Yes. So I would love to do. Sorry, are you a doctor? Oh God, she's getting angry. The
No, but I
here.
stayed at a Holiday Inn last night.
Good for you. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's wonderful. So here is the thing. Um, we need to transition now into gratitude because we have less than 5 minutes. We can go over a little bit, but you and I like to stay within the hour, especially these type of conversations. And we could go longer, but an hour is a good chunk of time for this. I feel like we have to be grateful that we get up in the morning. We have to be grateful that, we're alive. Many people did not survive. They didn't make it. I personally have lost some people now that I knew. The first wave, I didn't. There was not a single soul that I knew that ended up passing from it. This time, yes, quite a few people. And suddenly, the other thing I want to quickly, if it's okay with you, some of the people, Nazim today, we were discussing this. He got the shot and he is feeling kind of foggy, like can't focus, having problems, feeling like in kind of a mental fog, he was saying. And he's not used to that because he's very sharp. And I told him, I said, that's one of the side effects of COVID. And he said, well, I just got the vaccine. Have you heard of people having symptoms like that of COVID fog, COVID fatigue?
Yeah, absolutely.
Farting in the wind. We'll go back there again. Farting in the wind uncontrollably.
The gas and the intestinal issues, not as much.
Well played. I like that. The gas. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So yes, basically, there could be side effects to everything. So when you are developing an immune response, teaching your body to react to something,
yes,
your body is reacting as if you're sick, and that means it's diverting attention to fighting the illness away from other things. Some people have those more than others. It's the same thing with, we see this with drugs, and they say, well, certain people are having side effects. There are drugs that work on the population that just don't work on me. I've had to find other ones because my chemistry is a little bit different. There's another medication that I have to take, and it has side effects that are very common. I don't have any of the side effects. There's nothing that's going to work the same or be the same for everybody. So focus less on those odd exceptions, and instead, focus in on what is helping the most people and where are we getting the value from. Agreed.
Okay. Let's segue into the gratitude. You know how this works. We've done it a couple times, you and I. We've been down this road together. The other thing we've been doing in the last week since you've not been around, and I know you haven't been watching the broadcast as much as you have in the past, but if you could mention 3 broadcasters that you enjoy watching their programming, or if there's 3 people within your inner circle that you would like to promote, feel free to do so.
Thanks. So I'll say, man, I could go on a long list. There are so many wonderful personalities and wonderful people that you can just really even just sit back and enjoy. Like, I love listening to Helen when I can. Ed is just inspirational and just such a kind soul. It's great to talk to him. Fraser was here earlier, may still be in the audience. Just if you wanted to have a relaxed chill, you almost expect a soft jazz band to play in the corner when you're talking to him. Leslie's here and doing a very great professional series and interviews. I will be on her show eventually. We had to reschedule because I will actually be delivering the first in-person workshop that same week, so we're going to reschedule our session. But I'd say find the people you like and follow them. I will tag on one thing because this came up the other day. You know how you always are watching programs or YouTube videos and they're like, subscribe, and follow, and it's just a run-on joke. The way, and HAPS luckily is different than this because there's so much peer-to-peer support. But on the other platforms, if there's content you like and you're not directly sponsoring it, meaning they're providing this entertainment and venue for free,
Yes.
subscribing and liking dramatically increases their positioning and the likelihood that they'll be recommended to other people and get more viewers.
Right.
It is their lifeblood. It is like giving them a sandwich when they're hungry, and it doesn't cost you anything. So
Yes.
please, if it's a channel you like, subscribe. If it's something and you don't even want to watch the video, watch the ad for 5 seconds, watch the video for a couple seconds, they get credit for it, and turn it off and skip it. So
Right.
instead of just skipping it, watch it for a second, because those views are driving their livelihood, and they won't exist without that. And especially YouTube's algorithms and Facebook's right now are
Yeah.
really suppressing a lot of voices to promote the ones that are getting the most attention. So we have to work a little harder to help
Agreed.
the ones be heard.
Yes, we are doing something, and when I say we, the community, Yuki is spearheading a project on the 24th of this month, where we're going to buy $20 worth of coins, everyone that we know within our inner circle, and that will be spread around to everyone. I would like to probably put some of my money towards a man who likes to rant about masks. I think his name is Hans. And another man named Walt who likes to run around in the field with rubber boots with his dog named Teddy. But
Walt's great.
I think, you know, it's the same when you get the check from the government. Very few people put that money into crypto or put it in the bank. They go out and spend it, which means it stimulates the economy. And we need to stimulate the HAPS economy. And, you know, we want to keep great broadcasters like Hans on here. And the way we do that is by watching the programming, sponsoring, giving a few coins, and just, you know, a nice hello. Thank you. We appreciate you. I am always ever so honored to have you on my show. It's probably the most serious you'll ever see, Mike Bathurst. And, you know, I'm personally very grateful for the relationships I have developed at work. And what I mean by that is, you know, my employment and also here on HAPS. So, and I've, you know, through the pandemic, I've developed some relationships that would have never happened by just, you know, giving people elevator rides for 2 minutes, a minute here and there. So I feel very blessed to have that. And I'm hoping, and if we can end it on this, is that do you see things easing up in the next year?
Yeah, I think so. And it will, depending on where you are, it will happen differently. But, you know, I'm in Georgia in the States.
Yes.
Other than more people than normal wearing masks, you wouldn't even guess. Oh, and the driving is even worse than it was before. The driving is horrific.
Mhm.
They're really, everyone's back to normal. They're indoors. They're doing anything they want. It's almost like it didn't happen. There are still more people wearing masks, shopping and stuff.
Yeah.
But yes, I think we are going back to a modified normal. And I
Mhm.
would encourage people just, you know, take it easy, go with your comfort, and take it from there.
Good. Okay, we're going to end it there. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. That is hands down the most structured, professional broadcast I've ever done with Hans, and I need to leave before I jinx it.
True statement. But thanks. I'm glad. Thanks for sticking around and doing this. This was a lot of fun and a great end to a very wonderful Monday.
Yes, and don't forget to go buy those chips. I hear they're in short supply. Bye-bye.